Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to look at another way that we can save on yeast. So if you haven't watched my other video, I'll put a link down below so you guys can go check that out. But this is a new way I've been doing it. This is only my second time. So instead of after we get done with fermentation, boiling the 1 gallon of water, or about 1 gallon, letting it cool, pouring it into the carboy, swishing it up, letting it sit on its side. Instead of doing all that, what I've been doing is actually making a double starter. So what I'll do is 48 hours in advance, I will make a 1 liter starter. And how I make my starters is I use the fast pitch wort, a can of that, with a can of water, and then obviously the yeast. I let that go for 24 hours. Then after the 24 hours is up, what I'll do is make another starter or add to the starter. So I'll put another can of fast pitch yeast and another can of water. So I get almost 2 liters of liquid in there. Now, I will say, if you want, you can try this making a 2-liter starter up front, but you better use something to keep that foam down, because sometimes, my first time when I did this, I did overflow. It did pop the top off and stuff was all over. So make sure you use firm cap or whatever that stuff is if you're going to do a 2-liter starter right away. Now, because I stepped this up, it was just fine. Nothing went over. You can kind of see the mark where it got up to, but that's about it. So you make your 2-liter starter. Then when you're ready to pitch on brew day, you're going to take your sanitized lid and jar. Now this one's probably too big because we're not dealing with all that trub that we would get out of the primary. But this is what I have, so this is what I'm using. So now what we're going to do is pour half of this, or down to the 1 liter mark, into our mason jar. I wouldn't worry about the stir bar yet because you're not technically over pouring. So that looks about good. So now this is our starter that we can use next time. Put the lid on just a little bit. We still want, for the first week, I would say, we still want air to get out of there. But then you can just put it in the refrigerator. Make sure you put a date on that. Now, the reason I like doing it this way is you don't have all the trub in there. So if you made a big IPA, hoppy IPA, and in your primary fermentation, if you have all that trub and stuff, then you're still going to get some if you use the yeast wash way. But with this, it's pure. All you're doing is making the starter. Now, once this is done, I can go ahead and pour this, obviously, into my beer. Then this I can put in the fridge. But next time I go to make it, instead of making a 1-liter starter, I'll go ahead and make a 2-liter starter, because this is the fast pitch plus water plus yeast. So now I'm just making a standard starter, where in the beginning, if you're using the fast pitch or if you're making your own, you're going to have to make double, because obviously the first time you're dealing with 2 batches, where now going forward on this 001 yeast, I'm only making 1. I would suggest, if you can, getting a 5-liter flask if you can, because you won't have to use the firm cap and all that stuff, and you won't have to worry about it overflowing. So let me know if you guys have any questions. Do you guys use this method? Technically, I think it's better because it's clean. I can put it in any beer I want. I don't have to worry about what hops were in it or the hop profile getting in another beer I didn't want those hops in. And technically, if you have a yeast that you can use in, say, a brown ale, a porter, and a stout, if you make it this way, you don't have to worry about, okay, now I can only use that for a stout, or I can only use that for a porter. Will those flavors get in there, and will you be able to taste them? To me, doing it the old way, I haven't been able to tell, but I don't use my IPA starters for my stout. So let me know if you guys have any questions or comments on this. And don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, happy brewing.